You don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. This quote is found in the book Global Business Negotiations by Claude Selick, and this was my book of choice that I have chosen from the list. My name is Chris, and I chose this book because, first of all, I like business, and I actually had an experience where I was in another country and I was able to sit through a presentation of a negotiation while the both parties were deciding what they both wanted from each other. And the research paper that I'm doing, it talks about how it's very important to understand these cultural differences when going into a negotiation process. And some of those factors, which can be legal factors, government factors, different values that each culture has, and also ideological differences that they have. And starting with the legal factors, some of those are just the fact that different countries operate in different laws in regards to business. So, like the U.S. has to take in account not only its own laws with working with another country, but if that business in another country is doing something that the U.S. does not allow, that the U.S. is actually restricted to work with that company under U.S. laws. Even if those laws are common in the other country or that practice is common, the U.S. can still not engage with that company. And a little story is when I was in Ethiopia, I went with my boss who works with a nonprofit, and she wanted to build wells, but she couldn't just go and fund it herself independently, but she had to go through a nonprofit that was recognized to do that. And another factor is politics that plays a role in business negotiations. And an example is the French government was making a $156 million computer purchase for their schools. And Apple was trying to get a slice of that, but they decided not to go with any Apple computers. And the U.S. government was upset about that, claiming that it's because Apple was a U.S.-based company. And another example would be China and North Korea, how they have a dynamic where any defecting North Koreans that are found in China are actually sent back to North Korea, as opposed to in South Korea, if they have North Koreans, they offer them citizenship. Much like values, ideological differences play a role in global business negotiations. And these differences influence behaviors of the nation's citizens, so it's a big deal. In more traditional societies, it's more collective that's focused on as a whole, as a people group as a whole. They're compulsory in their force, calmer in their tone, and they have a high value in timeliness. Whereas Western societies place higher emphasis on the individual, more aggressive attitudes toward economic and social change, and they have a higher trend towards industrialization. A little example of that is a U.S. businessman was traveling to Saudi Arabia to finalize a business contract. And after multiple talks, they just couldn't get it finalized. So the U.S. businessman's boss had called him to come back to the U.S., and they couldn't figure out really why they wouldn't sign the contract when he was in Saudi Arabia. And later found out that it was the month of Ramadan. And in that month, not much business is really focused on or gets done, and everything kind of slows down. So it's an important factor that the U.S. businessman missed and neglected to pay attention to. There are many more important factors that play a role in a successful global negotiation, but those were just some that I was able to touch on. And hopefully you can see a importance in understanding these differences when going into a negotiation with another culture or country. So thank you for listening.